The Tetons defeated the Iron Horse, but the battle to save this land was far from over. So how did a secret plot involving a millionaire's fortune and the quiet artistry of a single photographer finally bring Chief Washaki's vision of peace to the valley? This conflict wasn't just about land. It was a fundamental disagreement about who defines the public good. Does the public good mean economic opportunity and local control for the citizens who live here? Or does it mean national preservation, a spiritual treasure saved for the distant collective soul of the American people? The mountains won the first round. In 1929, President Coolidge signed the bill protecting the Great Peaks themselves, but the victory was incomplete. By the 1920s, the valley floor, the place the Shoshone knew as Teewinot, the pride of the mountains, was under siege by a different kind of progress. Roadside shacks, billboards, and strip developments threatened to carve up the majestic view for good. The Great Peaks that symbolized the Shoshone's connection to the land were about to become mere backdrops for commerce. The battle shifted from the high mountain passes to the back rooms of the East Coast elite. The solution wasn't a military decree or a great prophecy, but two silent, powerful forces: massive wealth and undeniable art. The year is 1929, and President Coolidge's Park Act protected the peaks, but it failed to protect the valley floor, leaving it open to the same forces of commercialization. The man who saw the danger most clearly was Horace M. Albright, the superintendent of nearby Yellowstone National Park. A founder of the National Park Service, Albright knew that the official government route had stalled. In 1926, Albright had to risk his career. Against the direct orders of his supervisors, he deliberately took a wealthy visitor on a detour south from Yellowstone into the threatened Jackson Hole Valley. That visitor was John D. Rockefeller Jr. Albright showed him the pristine landscape, and then he showed him the roadside chaos. The hot dog stands, the ugly shacks, the billboards. This tackiness already threatened the businesses of the influential dude ranchers who quietly supported Albright's preservation efforts. Albright was essentially saying, "The government has failed. Only you can save this place." But to save it, Rockefeller would first have to understand what it was. The it was this beautiful valley known as Jackson Hole, a high, vast depression created by one of the largest and youngest fault block upheavals in North America. Carved and shaped by ancient glaciers and fed by the winding Snake River. The land had been discovered by 19th century trappers, and in their mountain vernacular they called any great sunken valley a hole. This particular one was named after a trapper who worked the area, David Jackson. Jackson, along with legendary partners like Jim Bridger and Jedediah Smith, were the high rollers of their day. They owed their success to a system pioneered by their predecessor, William Ashley. He invented the famous Rendezvous system. Rather than constructing costly and permanent trading posts, such as the eventual military fortifications at Fort Bridger and Fort Laramie, This single massive annual gathering allowed traders to bring essential supplies, or fixings, directly to the trappers deep in the wilderness and haul out an entire year's worth of furs in one go. This brilliant high-volume trading model was so successful that in 1830, David Jackson, Smith and Sublette bought the entire Rocky Mountain Fur Company from Ashley, taking control of the entire operation. It all began with a Help Wanted ad placed by Ashley in 1822 that read, "To enterprising young men, the subscriber wishes to engage 100 men to ascend the River Missouri to its source, there to be employed for 1 to 3 years." Ashley, who had pioneered the system and was one of the first white men to extensively explore and map these mountains, went on to make an even more dramatic move. He traded his leather clothes for a suit and served in the U.S. Congress from 1831 to 1837. From wild frontiersman to Washington politician, it was a rapid transformation that defined the era. But after the beaver trade collapsed, the land was left to the hardy homesteaders. And for them, the valley floor offered crucial, flat land for ranching, hay farming, and raising cattle. This land was their livelihood. For the settlers, this was private property, a community built on hard work and independence. They had battled the elements and the federal government to establish their homes. Now they felt they had the right to make a living by any means, from the charm of a beautiful dude ranch to the unsightly reality of a gas station. Any outside force was deeply resented, whether from Washington, D.C. or a millionaire's mansion, telling them what they could or could not do with their land. This was the core conflict, the right of the local few versus the desire of the national many. And it was this fierce local independence that forced John D. Rockefeller Jr. to realize he could not fight in the open. To save Jackson Hole, he had to disappear. Recognizing the unique spiritual value of this valley, he knew the only way to save Teewinot was to buy it. Working through an invisible corporation, he began the largest, most secretive land buyout in conservation history. For years, he bought up branches and leases under a cloak of secrecy. It was an extreme measure, a necessary deception, to save the land from itself. While his goal seemed straightforward, acquiring enough private land to compel Congress to expand the national park and honor the spiritual peace that Washakie had long sought, the undertaking was anything but simple. But even a millionaire's philanthropic nature, supported by an immense fortune, requires a guiding principle, a reason for the sacrifices made. That reason emerged through the lens of a photographer. But to truly appreciate the vision Adams brought, we must first understand the foundation of this view. The Grand Tetons are one of the youngest mountain ranges on Earth. As mentioned earlier, they are a fault block range, born not of slow erosion, but of dramatic sudden upheaval. Over the last 10 million years, the Teton Fault acted like a giant lever, lifting one massive block of the Earth's crust thousands of feet high while dropping the valley floor, or Jackson Hole, downward. The result is a raw, sharp, pyramid-like structure we see today, formed without foothills, a sudden, vertical declaration of creation. In the photographic artistry of Ansel Adams' work, Rockefeller found his North Star, so to speak. Adams didn't just photograph the Tetons, he translated their spiritual significance into a universal language of light and shadow. His dramatic high-contrast images of the peaks, like a prayer translated into silver gelatin, stripped away the noise and forced the public to see the landscape's intrinsic, sacred value. He used his lens to capture the very violence and youth of the mountain's formation, making the vertical lift and granite edges undeniable. Adams transformed the land from just real estate into a national soulscape. As I stand here, looking at these mountains, I am moved to my very core. It's a reminder of how deeply this landscape touches my heart. In the vastness of this beautiful scene, I feel small, yet remarkably known. I understand in a more profoundly personal way what Adams and Rockefeller saw, and realize this is only a fraction of my Creator's majestic love poured out through all of creation. It's in these truly awesome places that you realize how incredibly important the work of preservation is. It ensures that everyone, in every generation, can experience this original intention, unsullied by anything other than the slow, deliberate ticking of nature's clock. The art supplied the vision, but the political battle was far from over. Armed with this new moral imperative, the Snake River Land Company continued its work. And when the full scope of the massive acquisition was finally revealed, it unleashed a firestorm of anger across Wyoming. Locals and politicians accused King Rockefeller of corporate overreach and Eastern elitism. The controversy escalated until Rockefeller himself was called to testify before the U.S. Senate. Under intense political scrutiny, the oil heir publicly defended his actions. His message was clear. This was not a business venture. It was a gift. He was prepared to walk away and sell the land to the highest bidder if Congress did not accept it for conservation. Despite President Coolidge's 1929 act, which created Grand Teton National Park, the law only protected the Teton peaks, leaving the broad valley floor, the whole, unprotected and still vulnerable to commercial sprawl. After years of the secret land campaign, the controversy escalated, and even after Rockefeller's heartfelt testimony before the Senate, Congress refused to accept the land gift. Fiercely defending local economic interest and state rights, the Wyoming delegation deliberately blocked the necessary legislation to include the purchased lands in the park holdings. The political fight dragged on for years. Finally, in 1943, President Franklin D. Roosevelt broke the impasse. Using the executive power of the Antiquities Act, Roosevelt proclaimed the private Rockefeller lands and other federal lands a protected area, creating the Jackson Hole National Monument. This executive action sparked furious opposition. Wyoming politicians cried foul, calling it a Pearl Harbor blow against states' rights. And a final bitter protest was staged where ranchers drove cattle across the monument grounds in defiance. The battle was only truly resolved in 1950 when President Harry S. Truman signed a compromise bill. This bill formally abolished the controversial monument, but incorporated most of its lands, including Rockefeller's massive donation, into an enlarged Grand Teton National Park. Ultimately, Rockefeller's money, Adams' art, and the resolve of 2 presidents secured the land. Each of these remarkable individuals, Chief Washakie with his visionary leadership, Ansel Adams with his photographic lens, and J.D. Rockefeller Jr. through his philanthropy, they used their unique talents and stewardship of the land, demonstrating a caring spirit that reflects something greater than ourselves. This is where I find my journey beautifully aligns with Washakie's. He understood the true essence of the land extends beyond its resources. It is a sacred space where a greater presence speaks, nurtures, and reflects love through every aspect of creation. The pursuit of capturing this beauty is about internalizing that connection in our souls. We are deeply interconnected with all living things, dust breathed into life, carrying the essence of the Creator. This connection urges us to recognize our stewardship of the land, for our actions resonate through the web of existence. The Rockefeller family's commitment to the Tetons didn't end with the creation of the national park. For decades, they held on to one piece of land, the JY Ranch. Their legacy also secured the essential geographic link to the north. The John D. Rockefeller Jr. Memorial Parkway now formally connects Grand Teton to Yellowstone, ensuring the protection of the entire ecosystem. The story of the JY Ranch itself is the final chapter. The historic property was originally one of the first dude ranches in Jackson Hole, purchased by Louis Joy in 1906. But after the park was established, it became the Rockefeller family's private summer retreat for over 50 years. In a final act that summarized their entire preservationist mindset, the family gave this property back to the nation. On November 6, 2007, a day that marked the end of a family era, the land was transferred to the National Park Service. It was renamed the Lawrence S. Rockefeller Preserve, ensuring that the family's private inholding would forever remain pristine wilderness. This ultimate $160 million gift, made by Lawrence S. Rockefeller, was the final step in protecting the most sacred views of the valley, preserving that rare spiritual peace sought by both the earliest Shoshone leaders and the modern conservation visionaries. This is the spiritual legacy of Teewinot. The battle is won, the vision is fulfilled, and the only remaining task is to look and truly perceive with the soul. Join me next time as we go beyond the history and take to the water, exploring the preserved heart of the Tetons around Jenny Lake. Thanks for watching. Until next time, happy trails.